Okay. So now you have sine big A equals 19 over 11 sine 35. Now I'm just rewriting this to make it nicer to look at. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. So now this is a number over here on the right. So you can go to your calculator, whatever you've got, and you could calculate this. Make sure your mode is in degrees. Okay. But that's not the answer. It's almost the answer. You have to undo the sign here. Okay. So you can either get a number here, or you can take the sine inverse of both sides. So on the left, it undoes the sign, becomes just angle A. And on the right, like I said, this will give you the angle. So if you're comfortable putting all that in your calculator, and
let's see, sine.
you should be at this point, but some students are not.
Sine 19 over 11.
Go ahead and calculate that.
Actually,
Let
one
me know.
second. I just made a mistake. Entering it. I got 82.
Okay, so 82.2, we'll say degrees. Now, when you go back and look at your answers, 2 of them have that. So that's good. Right. Now, notice what's different about these 2 answers right here. What's different about them?
The C
C value. So now to find the third angle, you could use law of sines, but there's something much simpler than that. Since we found that angle A is 82.2, we know that the 3 angles in the triangle add up to 180. So you can add these 3 together, and that gets you to 180.
So if you were to add 35 plus 82.2 and subtract that from 180, you would get angle C.
Which is 62.8, and they're both 62.8, so it doesn't help you, but that's how you get that. So to find the angle C, you have to use law of sines again. So you only think of this as a tool in your toolbox, and you want to use it when the appropriate time. And now you have to use law of sines. Okay, you didn't have to. So let's reframe the problem again. So this time you're trying to find C, so that goes top left. I always put the thing I'm trying to find top left over sine of big C, which is 62.8, equals, now you have a choice. You can either use big A and little a, or big B and little b. I always go back to the given information, just in the chance that I made a mistake. Calculating it might work out. So sine, I'm sorry, 11 over sine 35, like that.
Got it.
All right, so this is all for C. You multiply both sides by sine 62.8. So it's 11 sine 62.8 over sine 35, like that. And then you can go to your calculator to figure that out.
And that's 30. I got 17.05.
Okay, so that should match up with one of them. 17.1 there. So there's your
that's
answer.
Yeah, that'd be it. All right. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
All right, so
All right, so that's it for this activity, but then there's all right. A 1/2, leave All right. I had to go rid of this. So this one is going to check check one of the questions. So let me put one of them, here's the first one. This is the part 1 test. It's in the chat.
Okay. The figure below shows a right triangle. What is P divided by R? Yeah, so it's relative to which angle, P divided by R, or so you must have just go through each of these, right? So like tangent of X is what over what? It's opposite over adjacent, which is P over R in this case. So that is correct. You really just have to go one by one to see which one matches up with what you.
Number 2 is in the chat.
Right, let's take a look here. Okay, so sine Y is 7 over Q. So A, B, C. So tell me, what is 7 and what is Q in this picture
7
here?
in this case would be the opposite of angle Y. So that'd be A.
Okay, so A is really 7. What about Q?
Um, Q would be the hypotenuse, which is in this case C.
Okay, and then tangent of Y means that the other one here must be R.
Yep.
So then cosine Y, which is adjacent over hypotenuse, would be R over Q, which you have.
Number 3 is in the chat now.
This is one of those where it looks like we're gonna have to draw a picture. There's a mirror standing on a treehouse looking down at a swing set in the yard next door. The angle of depression. So here's a mirror and he's staring down, and the angle of depression is this one with the horizontal. It's 30.26 degrees. He is 14 feet from the ground, so that's here. And how many feet is the base of the tree from the swing set? So it looks like we're trying to find X there. So if you recall from parallel lines, this 30.26 is the same as this 30.26.
Yeah.
All right. So that means it's this angle down here. So my question to you is, what are we going to use? Sine, cosine, or tangent to find X?
To find X, you need to find the adjacent. So you would use opposite over adjacent. So that'd be tan.
Tangent of 30.26 equals 14 divided by X.
Yep. Then you would multiply by X on both sides.
Okay.
And you would get 10, 30, 23.9. So that'd be, yeah, it would be 24 if you were to round it.
All right, good job on that.
Let me put the next image. Here's 5.
Sail of a boat is in the shape of a right triangle. Which expression shows the height in meters of the sail? Okay. So again, sometimes you could just draw it without all the physical situation. 35 degrees, 8, and we want basically the height here. So, question is, which trig function should you use? Which one are you going to use here? Is it sine? Is it cosine? And then why?
They gave us the hypotenuse, so in there, so asking for the adjacent, they give us the hypotenuse. So adjacent over hypotenuse, which would be cosine.
The cosine 35 equals h over 8. So how do you solve for h?
Multiply by 8 on both sides.
Yep.
All right, then that would be the
Yep, good.
yeah. All right, now number 8 is another one that I wanted to go over. It's in the chat now.
Right. If sine 90 equals 1, then which statement is true? So this is the cofunction. So the sine of theta equals the cosine of 90 minus theta. So what is the angle in your problem?
Degrees
90 degrees. So what is 90 minus 90?
0.
0. So it's either A or first one or the third one, but they do equal the same value. So if sine 90 is actually 1, then cosine of 0 must also be 1.
Okay, so it wouldn't be cosine 90 equals 0 because right, on the cosine side would be 0. So would it be the third one? Cosine of 0 degrees equals 0.
No, they have to equal the same thing.
Oh, so then it's got to be number 1 because that's the
Yes.
one that has cosine of 0 equals 1.
Yes.
And put this in the chat. And should be in the chat now.
Picture below shows a right triangle shaped charging stand for a gaming system. Okay. So again, it's probably best to just draw it with the triangle, and just redraw it with the stuff that you care about, A, B, and C. So they want A to C. You can call that Y if you want. So just like before, you got to figure out, well, what trig function am I using? And it is tangent. Tangent of 50 is Y over 3. So you can see pretty clearly it's either the second or the third. And looks like you've got it correct there.
Perfect. Um, chat now.
Take a look here. Jim is designing a seesaw for a children's park. So again, let's, same thing. You just draw it without this. Maximum height is rise 2 meters as shown was the length of the seesaw. So they're asking about, I'll call this C up here. That's the length of the seesaw. So again, which trig function are you? Sine, cosine, or tangent?
So if we're trying to find B, then you have to do opposite of hypotenuse, which is sine.
Okay, so sine 30 equals 2 over C.
Then you
So
multiply
it's, yeah, multiply by C and then divide. That's whatever this comes out to.
2 divided by the sine of 4.
Now, almost everything we've been doing is what you do as part of trigonometry. Trigonometry, yeah. So keep that in mind.
Right, here's next one. This one's to the chat.
Jason is looking at two buildings, building A and building B at an angle elevation of 73 degrees. Building A is 30 feet away and building B is 35 feet away. Which building is taller and by approximately how many feet? So there are two triangles here. So you got triangle 1, you got triangle 2. So first one, building O, so we'll call this A. Building A is 30 feet away. Building B is 35 feet away. And there's an angle elevation for both of 73 degrees. So you just have to find the height for each of them. So the height on the first one, tangent of 73 equals h over 30. So we can solve for h. H is 30 tangent 73. On the right here, same thing. Tangent 73 equals h over 35. H equals 35 tangent 73, like that.
I got 98 for the 30 for building A. I got 114.4. So 114 for building B.
So it looks like the second one is taller by about 16.35 feet. So notice it's asking which one is taller. It's not asking you to find the you have to find the height of both, but then you have to subtract. It looks like B is taller.
You have to subtract them. So I'm just asking for the all right, got it. number 12. Here, let me- Right. Chat.
Hey, Karthik, sorry about that. I see you dropped another one here in the chat.
No problem.
All right, so sine y. I'll do this again here. I'll use X, Y, and Z this time. So tell me what to put where for this first one.
So for sine, A would be X
Okay,
and 6 would be Z. That would be the
okay.
hypotenuse. And then from the tan, that would make that be X.
Now secant, you remember secant, we talked about it being the reciprocal of cosine.
Yeah.
So you have to first figure out, well, what is cosine of y?
So the cosine would be, that's not the chase in the red hypotenuse, so it'd be B over 6.
Okay, so then the secant is the flip of that.
6 over B.
Yeah.
All right. Chat. All right, the next one's the chat.
So yeah, you've done cosine F is 4/9 and W is 16 units. So basically they're telling you it's similar triangles here. So this one's 16. So how do you go from 4 to 16? Well, you multiply by 4. Okay.
Yeah.
So then what's this length up here if you multiply by 4?
If you were to multiply by 4, you would get 36.
There you go.
Uh,
Wait, I'm sorry. I did the wrong one. I misread this. Oh no, they want XY. Sorry, yes, that is correct. XW is 16. That's maybe why you put that there.
yeah, that was probably why. So now I have part 2. Part 2 question number the chat now. This is a written portion.
Huh? Okay. Yeah, so let's say the tangent of X is 5/2.5, like that. That's what they're saying. Now, those aren't the actual lengths. That's just the ratio of that's just the ratio of the sides. So we might start with saying something like that, saying that the trigonometric so maybe saying like while, boy, sorry, this is not where I can type real well, but we'll try. While the trigonometric ratios could represent the lengths of the sides, more generally, they represent the reduced form. Sorry, there's some errors in here. Reduced form of the ratio of the sides. Okay. It's a small distinction, but basically we're saying that, yeah, these are like this number over here is the ratio of the sides. We don't know if they're the actual sides. Okay. Now, because, or you can say, you know, due to the fact that the two triangles are similar, comma, the ratio of sides after the dilation will also be the same. Okay, and then you can give the example. You can say, so for example, in the smaller triangle, we know that, well, are we doing perp? For example, smaller triangle, we know that the ratio for tangent of the opposite to the adjacent side is 5 to 2.5. Okay. The ratio in the dilated triangle will also have this same ratio for tangent of the opposite to the adjacent side. Like that. I think that's enough to find part A.
Got it. Second, make it type that. So would I just wait, so wait 1 second. Would I just show the measurements of both the triangles?
Yeah, so we know that that when it's dilated by a scale factor of 2, we know that the lengths are then, so that's now up to part B. So advance part B. So we know that the dilation multiplies the side lengths by this scale factor. In this case, segment AC is 2 times the length of segment XY. Similarly, segment, sorry to keep gotta go back and forth. CB is 2 times the length of segment, and that's YZ. Therefore, segment AC has length. Go back and look at 5. Double 2.5 is 5, so 2 times 2.5 equals 5. And segment CB has length 2 times 5 equals 10.
One second. I got that down. So, yeah, that makes sense. All right, here's number 2. Chat.
All right, use the image below to answer the following questions. Find the values of sine X and cosine Y. Okay, so this is a written question, right? I have to type out what you're
Yeah,
gonna do.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so we're gonna say this. First, it is
Yeah.
necessary. Sorry?
I say that. I think what they're wanting us to do is explain how we got the answers and like explaining where it starts,
Yeah.
basically.
Hypotenuse. All right, first it's necessary to calculate the hypotenuse of the triangle. This is done using Pythagorean theorem. The hypotenuse C. Well, I guess we can just type that. You know, this is where I guess I'll just handwrite it. So it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 5 squared plus 12 squared equals c squared. Could you solve that for c for us?
1 second.
Say that again.
1 second. Just copy it.
Yeah. Yeah, take your time, but yeah, go ahead and see if you can figure that out. I'm gonna step away for 30 seconds, but I'll be right back.
All right, no problem.
Let me know when you got C for me, please.
Almost got it. It's 13.
So use 13, good. Okay, so that's really important. So then the next thing you do is explain how to find, sine and cosine. So this is where you say, okay, to determine the sine of x, the opposite side and hypotenuse are used in ratio. Therefore, sine x equals 5/13, and no reducing is possible. Similarly, and this is where you basically just copy and paste. That's what I'm going to do here. Similarly, to determine the cosine of x, or cosine of y, actually, cosine of y, the adjacent side and hypotenuse are used in ratio. And we might make a comment here about the fact that when switching, or say the opposite and adjacent legs are based on the angle, meaning that they switch positions. This is why the cosine of y, or sorry, sine of x equals the cosine of y.
Right. Right.
Right. I mean, is that kind of the end of the written stuff?
Um, as in for
Yeah, I'm kind of asking if we can stop here for this hour. I
oh
need to make a
yeah,
few phone calls if it's not urgent. We can just up at 6 o'clock with the next
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, we can do that.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much. I will let me go and stop.